Hello interwebs, welcome to Let's Fix Computers. This video is effectively a modern remake of a previous video I did in the early days of the channel on how to repair a malfunctioning trackpad on a MacBook Pro. So as I say, I've done this one before, but it was a long time ago. It's an old video, the quality is pretty bad, so here's a much more updated version. Now, I was hoping to have a demonstration of the problem to start off with. However, in classic fashion of making videos, the fault has not occurred. This fault is an intermittent one. Quite often when you first turn on the laptop, it will be absolutely fine, as this laptop currently is. You can move around the mouse, it tracks just fine, no problems whatsoever. However, at some point when it feels like it, the fault will occur, and what we'll see is that the mouse cursor will not track my finger movements correctly. So either it will feel like I'm not moving my finger, I will have to scrub, or occasionally the mouse will be jittery. So as I move, the mouse goes across the screen instead of a nice smooth line, and quite often you'll get false input. And on the MacBook Pro, this often manifests itself with multi-point inputs occurring, like for example pinch to zoom. So you'll find that the launchpad just appears randomly. You suddenly switch over to the dashboard at random and it will be sitting here doing that on the screen while I'm not touching the trackpad. I can't click out, that kind of thing. That's what you'll see. So in order to fix this, what we're going to do is remove the trackpad, clean the trackpad and refit it again. So let's get going. So let's start off by turning off the laptop. Then once the laptop is fully off, turn it over and remove the 10 screws from the bottom of the laptop. These are 00 Phillips, sorry, these are Phillips 0 screws. So take all of those out, then the bottom cover comes off, and we need to remove the battery. So the first thing we're going to do is disconnect the battery, and then we need a tri-wing screwdriver to take the battery out. And there's my tri-wing screwdriver. So here's a close-up of that screwdriver just in case you've never seen one before. So that's the screwdriver we've got. You can buy these for about £1 on eBay. Very easy. They also commonly come with replacement batteries and that kind of thing. So not difficult to get hold of. Now, if like this laptop, you find that there are broken mounts for the battery, don't panic, that's really common. It doesn't really matter, the battery's not going to fall out of the laptop. So I always put the screws back in just so the screws are present, but really it doesn't matter. You could leave the battery just unscrewed and it would be fine. But you know, if you can screw the battery back in, then that's always nice to do. So just lift that up and take the battery out. So here's the back of the trackpad. This is what we're interested in. Now, there are the cable that connects it connects from there to here. Now, this is the 13-inch model. Now, on the 15-inch model, this cable actually tracks on the bottom of the logic board over to the side, over here somewhere. It goes under the logic board to get there. Now, for that reason, when I'm disconnecting the trackpad, I always do it from this end. However, my previous video on this, the comments are awash with people raging at me for doing it this way. They're saying, oh, you're going to wreck the trackpad and things like that. Now, on the 13-inch, absolutely, you can disconnect it from this end. It's nice and easy, and you can thread that out of there super easy. So if you want to do it that way, you're more than welcome to. But if you're doing this on a 15-inch laptop, you're going to find that that's actually quite difficult to do. I leave the choice up to you. Just for posterity, I'll show you both methods. So in order to remove it from this end, I'm just going to flip that locking lever up like that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my fingernails on each side of this shiny bit here and just push it backwards. Like that. That's now disconnected. Now we'll pull that up and we'll just peel off the slight adhesive. Like that. And that's done. Now what you don't want to do is bend the shiny bit because there's electronics on the back. Now, all the people in my comments section who raged at me and said I owed them a new trackpad because apparently I broke their laptop, what they did was when they were removing this bit, let me just put that back in so I can demonstrate. What they did was they probably pulled this up, or they scrunched up the shiny bit or something like that, so it bent that little electronic circuit board and damaged the controller on it. That's probably what happened. If that happens to you, This cable is like £5 or £10 on eBay. It's not expensive if you break it. Likewise, the entire trackpad is not particularly expensive if you break it. So it's not a big deal. Take care. But, you know, if you break it, then just buy another one. No big deal. So that's that. So now we've removed the cable to it, we need to remove these silver screws. So these are 00 Phillips. Will they answer to my 0 Phillips? They will answer to my 0 Phillips. I'm using Wera screwdrivers here. These are really good screwdrivers. They fit screws really well. They're worth every penny. If your screwdriver doesn't fit these properly, you might need to get a 00 Phillips to get onto these small screws. Make sure you're using the right screwdrivers, because if you use the wrong screwdrivers, you will just strip the head because it won't fit properly. And then you'll have a stripped head that you can't get out. If that happens to you, you can remove the black ones, and then rather than the trackpad coming off of these little silver flanges, the silver flanges themselves will come off from the chassis. That's completely fine as well. It's just easier the way I've done it, but you can remove the black screws as well if you want. So I'm just going to take those out now because we're going to lift the laptop up. So let's just lift that up, and as you can see, the trackpad is just dropping out, and now I can just pull that out. And that's our trackpad removed. So if your trackpad is smashed or cracked, or it's otherwise damaged because of a bulging battery or whatever, now's the time to get your brand new shiny trackpad out from the bag that it's come in and brandish that. So I'm going to put this to one side for just a moment. Now next what I'm going to do is open the laptop up. And now what we need to do is just clean around this edge here, that little indent, because what's happened is over time just sweat and grime and all kinds of just gunk just gets down the sides and causes false input on the trackpad. The software can filter a lot of this out, but eventually it just gets too much for it. So to clean it, there's a couple of different things we can use. Let me just grab a selection. Previously I've used WD-40 to do this. You can also use just ordinary glass cleaner. So this is Tesco window and glass cleaner spray, such as you'd use on your household windows. You could use Windoline or Windex or whatever brand name is available in your country. The other one you can use is isopropyl alcohol, otherwise known as rubbing alcohol. The higher the proof, the better. I use proper 99% stuff because it's not expensive. It's very cheap to buy it on eBay, and it's a very good cleaning fluid. To be honest, anything will do. Because we're cleaning metal here, you know, you don't need to be too worried. I like isopropyl alcohol because it evaporates very quickly, so I can be very liberal with it and not be worried about damaging anything. So what I'm going to do is just spritz the edge of the trackpad bay with the isopropyl alcohol, just so it's all wet like that. And then I'm going to use a toothbrush just to scrub around the inside. There we go. And now I'll just put this to one side a sec. And now we're going to give the trackpad itself the same treatment. So again, I'm going to take my IPA. Because alcohol evaporates so easily, as you can see, I can just drown stuff in it and it doesn't matter because it'll just dry out while you watch it. If you're using the glass cleaner also evaporates without leaving a residue, but you need to be a little bit more careful with it. If you're using glass cleaner, I recommend spraying onto your toothbrush rather than the device. However, because I'm using alcohol, I can just you can just pour alcohol across a laptop, and don't do it while it's turned on, but you can just pour alcohol across a laptop and it'll just evaporate. And that's why I like the IPA, because it's very, very forgiving. So as you can see, I'm just scrubbing this thing up. I'm aiming for the edges here where it's been sitting in the bay. There we go. And now we're going to give that a bit of speed dry. My cloth isn't to hand, so I'm just going to use a paintbrush just to give that a bit of a brush down. And the paintbrush will just brush the excess away, and that'll just dry up as we watch it. There we go. And that's now nice and clean. And if I give you a super close-up, as you can see on the edge there, that's now perfectly clean. There's no grit and grime around the edge of that trackpad. That's the effect we're going for here. Super clean. And I'm just going to pass that back into the bay and lay it down. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the screws back in. We're not going to tighten them up. We're just going to put it in place, and then we have to realign the trackpad again. This is the most awkward part of the job. So let's get a couple of screws in to hold it all in place. As you can see, I bent one of the flanges there. That's not a big deal. It doesn't really matter. Try not to do it, because if you bend them back and forth, they'll snap. However, that little bend I've just done, that's not a big deal. It doesn't mind. And now I'm just going to back all the screws out a little bit, just so they're in but not tight. And we're going to open the laptop up. Now, as you can see, there's actually a gap around the trackpad, and I can move it around. And what we want to do is we want to get the trackpad perfectly centered. This is not critical, but the more centered you get it, the more likely you are to have a successful fix overall, and the nicer it looks. So I'm just going to align that by eye. It's very difficult to get this spot on, because I can get this looking correct, but when I tighten the screws up, everything will move slightly. So it's very, very difficult to get a perfect finish. But we'll make the effort. There we go. Right, that looks about perfect to my eye. So what I'll do now is just tighten the screws. I'm just going to tighten one of them, and then I'm going to check it again. And this is why I put in all 4 screws, because if you just try putting in one screw, it'll shift more. There you go, that's stayed in place. Let's do another one on the other side. There we go. I think I've just gotten that right first time, which doesn't happen very often. I'm going to be bold and do the others. Now, I'm not graunching these up. I'm just tightening them until the screwdriver just naturally just jumps out the screw. So not graunching them, just like tip of the finger tightness is all you need. Good. Right, that's done. Now, while we're at it, is that a big gap along the top? Yeah, there's a little bit of a gap along the top. Ugh. That's good enough, though. It's not touching the edges, which is fine. And the click weight feels about right. That has a nice feel to it. If the click is super light, so you give it a hard look and it clicks, or if it's very heavy, so you have to sort of really press down on it, what you want to do then is tweak this screw here. This shiny screw here, that's the click weight adjustment. As you tighten that screw, as the screw goes further in, the click becomes lighter, because the clicker is on the other side of that and it has less distance to travel. Then if you unscrew that, the click becomes heavier because you have to press the trackpad further in before it clicks. So you can tweak that to your heart's desire. I rarely find, this doesn't really drift in my experience. I don't very often have to touch it, but you can if you want, it's up to you. So I think we're about done there. So let's stick our cable back in. And now I've got to feed this one back up through here, which I wouldn't have had to do if we hadn't unplugged it from this end. But that's none of my business. There we go. Plug that in. And reconnect it to the trackpad. And press the locking lever down. And we're done. Right, let's put our battery back in. Just going to wipe that down with one hand just to get the grit off of that. And while you have the laptop in pieces, just do a quick health check on the battery. Most of the battery is this hard plastic case, but on the bottom side here, it's literally just just a plastic covering. It's flimsy. So if the battery is dying, the cells will start to expand, and this is the first place you'll see it. Because a classic failure mode for these is for one or more of the cells to start puffing up, to start expanding. Then this will bulge out, and typically because it's sitting there, it'll bulge out, press against the back of the trackpad, causing the trackpad itself to bulge out from the laptop. very common failure mode. So as you can see, this one is perfectly flat. That battery is absolutely flat. It's in good health. Well, I'll rephrase that. It's the batteries themselves aren't trying to vent or anything. So that's fine. So we'll put these screws back in. This screw here is not holding anything, but I'm going to put it in anyway, just so the screws are all present in the laptop. And if someone else really wants to fix that, they're more than welcome to. Or failing that, if the battery gets replaced, the screw will be there. Reconnect the battery, and that's about it. Let's put the bottom case back on, which I'm also going to clean because it's covered in dust and stuff. You can go to town on these and clean up any stains that are on there if you want, but I just remove all the surface grit from them. However, I am going to get my airline and just blow out this fan, because this fan looks a little bit hairy in there, so I'm just going to clear the dust out of that. There we go. As you can see, that's now a nice clean fan, which is going to be blowing properly. And the rest of this laptop all looks to be in quite happy condition now. You see these little weird circles of plastic. These come off of the bottom feet. Not sure where this one has actually come off from, but it's come off from one of these somewhere. It's quite common. And I'll put that on. And I'll put the screws in for good measure, because hopefully I'm all done with this laptop now. The MacBook Pro often has two different screws in it. The one on the left has a step, and the one on the right doesn't have a step. Now, technically, both screws will usually fit in all the holes. However, there is a correct way of doing it. And the trick to remembering which screws go where is that the stepped screws go on the inside one. So here, 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 and here. And the way I remember that is stairs go inside your house. So stairs go between the other screws. These screws are on the outside, these screws are on the inside. So steps go inside the house. That's how I remember which way round they go. Right, now from where I cleaned it earlier on, as you can see, there's a lot of smudge marks where I attacked it with the toothbrush and stuff. So now I'm just going to clean the laptop up properly. So for this, I'm going to use the glass cleaner. And I'm just going to spritz the whole laptop. Like that. And then using just a microfiber cloth, I'm just going to wipe it down again. And then I'm going to turn over to a dry side of the cloth and go over it again. Then back to the wet side and do the screen. Just using circular motions to get into the edges and the corners. And then back to the dry side again to buff to a sheen. There we go, and once I've finished, I'll also repeat that same process on the top of the laptop, but you guys don't need to see that. Let's turn it on, make sure it all works. And now we've got to wait 10,000 years for it to start up, because this thing has a hard drive in it. Which hopefully will be coming out before this goes back to the customer, but we'll see about that. Right, while we wait for it to start up, let's review. So we removed the trackpad, and we used a cleaning fluid, either glass cleaner or isopropyl alcohol, to clean all the gunk out from around the trackpad. Then we put the trackpad back in again. Now, if you have a MacBook Retina or a MacBook Air, the basic principle for this is exactly the same. You can do exactly the same tricks to clean it. It's just the other laptops have slightly different methods of disassembly. I have done videos on some of the other ones, so search my channel for the relevant laptop. So if you've got a MacBook Air, search for MacBook Air Trackpad or something like that. Other things of note, I think that's about it, to be honest. Because this is an intermittent fault, of course, you have to leave the laptop running for an hour or two to really see if you fix the problem or not. As you saw at the start of the video, it doesn't always happen. So just because I turn this on and you see the mouse cursor moving nice and naturally, that doesn't mean I actually fixed it. 20 minutes after I stop recording this, it might go wrong again. If it does that, I will do a second attempt at cleaning it, and I will do exactly the same process a second time and see if it works. Right, in this instance, it's currently working, feels very nice. Then if after the second cleaning attempt, it still doesn't work properly, I will replace the trackpad. I'll get another one from eBay or scavenge another one from a secondhand laptop, whatever. We'll just put a different trackpad in it, and then that'll definitely fix it. So I usually make 2 cleaning attempts, and after that I go to a new trackpad, because sometimes with the trackpads, the dirt just gets too ingrained into the trackpad to properly clean. That's what happens occasionally. But in this instance, we're all fine. So past that, we're all finished. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye for now.